clerk of the Township of Bloomfield and posted on Bloomfield School District website on January 7th, 2021. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Will, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Berger.
Present.
Ms. Dudley.
Here.
Ms. Green.
Here.
Mr. Heller.
Here.
Mr. Morse.
Here.
Ms. Salinas.
Here.
Vice President Walker.
Here.
President Fishman.
Here. Be it resolved that the Bloomfield Board of Education will adjourn into a closed meeting to discuss items which fall in exception of our open meetings policy and permit the board to have private discussion since it deals with specific exceptions contained in NJSA 10:4-12B, specifically collective bargaining agreements. May I have a motion, please?
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. We will see you all in approximately 1 hour. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to our public session of our regularly scheduled board meeting. Tonight, leading off our public session is going to be Mr. Steve Jenkins, our athletic director, and he's going to give us a COVID update about athletics. Mr. Jenkins.
Good evening, everyone. I know you have an ambitious agenda, so I'll try to move things along. But before I talk COVID, I would just like to take this opportunity to publicly thank all of you, Mr. G, Joe, everybody, for seeing fit to make the repairs at Foley. I know a number of you have been down there for the events. And we had a great turnout for football and the Cheer for the Cure. We have a game on Friday and fireworks for the community on Saturday. So I know it was expensive, but I think what you've returned to the community is well worth it. So thank you for that. COVID. Let's go back a year and a half. And we've been very, very fortunate. I want to knock on wood, but I'm happy and proud to say that since this has happened, we haven't had to cancel any events or any teams on our end. When things go good, the lion's share of the credit always should appropriately go to the kids. And they really made a lot of sacrifices, did the right thing, followed directions, and I can't compliment them enough. However, if there's a single person who deserves a huge amount of credit, it's the person to my left, our athletic trainer, Carly McMorrow. Carly has been our COVID protocol coordinator since the summer of 2020, and she took care of all of the forms, temperature taking, questionnaires. It's extensive. I brought this folder with me just because in the summer of 2020, these were the various protocols we were getting on a daily basis, and it literally changed day to day, and she did a great job. And again, she worked closely with the coaches and the parents' communication, and Mr. Jennings thinks I punished her by making her stay late tonight, but I wanted you guys to see her in the flesh and have a chance to thank her. So, all right, so where we are now and the impact it's had on us in terms of the athletic program. If we use the year 1920 as sort of our base year in terms of participation, now there was no spring season, so I took the spring from 18-19 year. We had a total of 930 young people participating in sports here. Last year with COVID, we obviously knew there was going to be a decline. Last year's total was 624. So we had over a 30% decline. Anecdotally, I'll tell you that in some cases, it was directly COVID related. I talked to parents, especially in close contact sports like football and wrestling. But I think we feel the bigger loss came from the fact that we couldn't do the general recruiting that we do. When we're in school, the phys ed teachers see the kids, the coaches visit the kids, they develop a relationship with the kids. You guys are very proud of what the girl wrestlers have done. And what's really helped us is teachers get a rapport with the kid and they find out that this young lady has been doing martial arts. My wrestling coach goes and talks to her and we sort of segue her into wrestling. So that happens for all of our sports, but many of the sports, you know, they turn out. Basketball, they turn out in droves. But track, swimming, some of our, ancillary sports, for lack of a better word, we got to really beat the bushes and recruit them. So at any rate, last year we stepped back a little bit, but I am happy to report that the fall of this year, our numbers were not back up totally, but we're plus 45 where we were last year, so we're getting there. At our end, we've extended the period where a number of our teams, we always try to keep it open as long as we can, especially for kids in grade 9. But we've had kids coming out. We had kids join soccer, some of our teams this week. It's late, but we feel it's important that we could get them on board. So we extended that, and the communication's gone out. And I think that most people are feeling a greater comfort level with COVID in general, so maybe that's helping the parents have a better sense of ease, and they see that we're trying to follow protocols. And kudos out to Diane S. back in transportation, too, because it hasn't been easy at her end. So that's helped us. I talked to my colleagues, and I think this number of 30%, I said the lowest anybody I've talked to lost 20%. So we're by no means unusual what's happened to us. I think if we have an advantage going forward, and again, kudos to all of you, it's that last year you allowed our rec programs to use our facilities. A number of communities didn't do that. So our wrestling youngsters, basketball, a lot of people didn't let the people inside use their inside facilities. We did. So I think that's going to pay off for us in the long run. Maybe we will not have the kind of a setback that a lot of my colleagues are anticipating in the next couple of years. Only time will tell, but I think that you guys showing that foresight and, frankly, trust in Carly and myself and the rec department as well has made a big difference, and I think it's going to pay off for us in the long run. So that's where we are. I'll keep you abreast of things going forward. Just as a heads up, unlike the summer of 2020, the NJSI now has totally foregone any advice, and now they leave it up to the school district. So again, I've been in communication with everyone here. We've maintained most of the protocols we had last year, although we frankly did not have to. But if we're gonna err, we're gonna err on the side of caution. So we've kept pretty much doing everything we did last year. So any questions for me or Carly? We're here. I know you have things to do, but we're certainly here to answer any questions if you need us to.
Anybody? Yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to take a second to say congratulations. I really think it's been impressive. I was one of those parents throughout the whole of last year going, how do you do wrestling in COVID? How do you do basketball in COVID? How do you do certain sports? How do you actually make it work? And was one of those people who was, for lack of a better term, a nervous Nelly on all this stuff. And I got to tell you guys, you did an amazing job. It's so impressive to see how well you've done in the last year. I really give you a ton of credit for the level of compliance you put out there. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you guys need anything in this process, please ask. We really take a lot of pride in the work that you guys do, and it shows. So thank you for everything you've done, and keep up the great work.
We appreciate that. And my wrestling coach referenced you tonight. He said we need something. We'll talk.
Thank you guys for coming. It's just kudos to you and your coaching staff, because our athletes were the people that were out as representation from our district, because nobody else was here. Everybody else was at home and online. So those kids, top to bottom, along with your coaching staff and the rest of the athletic department, deserve huge kudos for making us shine very brightly for many reasons, athletically, academically, but most of all, like you said, giving up a lot of different things that they could have been doing as teenagers to make sure that they were eligible to be on the field. So please pass that along to them, because that's not easy to do, to make such an upstanding decision in your teenage years, not to want to go, relinquish that for some fun on a weekend or something. So a lot of discipline top to bottom.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you.
We're going to switch gears now, and we're going to have Mr. Jennings, our high school principal, come in and talk about our high school graduation rate.
Okay, that's over here. All right. Where's my finger? Oh, let's go back. I'm sorry, I can't really see. doesn't really matter. Okay. Let's do this. All right, we're good. Yeah, we're good. So we're going to just spend a few minutes talking about the four-year high school graduation rate. This is something that's on our annual performance report card each year. Let's see. Okay. So one of the questions we often get is, what does the four-year high school graduation rate measure? And although it may seem like a simplistic question, the formula is a little more complicated than it may appear. So simply, it does measure how many students graduate 4 years from their first day of school in New Jersey, in the country. And so one of the things that we deal with here in Bloomfield is that there are certain things that are, may be deemed as unfair, that stack against us when we measure the graduation rate. Students who move into our district from other schools, they automatically count in our record regardless of when they move in. So they did 3 years at another district and they've come into Bloomfield and maybe they're behind academically. We're responsible for their 4-year rate. Am I on?
Your clearance up on.
There you go. Thank you. And so, for many students moving into Bloomfield, it's a step up for them economically and academically. And oftentimes we meet with parents with students who are not doing well somewhere else, so they're moving them into a new district. We have, as you know, many special education programs, the VEST program everybody's familiar with, our ABA program, our multiply disabled program. These are students who are starting high school with their IEP saying that they're going to stay in school until they're 21. And so even though after 4 years they have enough credits to graduate, they're not graduating. They're staying for additional services. And so those students, if it's 12 or 15 students per year, they count against our graduation rate because even though we knew ahead of time they were going to stay, even though it's in their IEP, that still counts against our graduation rate. As you know, our ELL program is blossoming in Bloomfield. We're seeing an increase of students that are coming to us from all over the world, particularly Central and South America. And many of these students coming in have not been in school maybe for a year or so. They're coming in as a port of entry, meaning that they have little to no English, and so we have to, concentrate on ELL classes, ESL classes, and so oftentimes we see that taking an extra year to get them through these programs where they can graduate. But that all said, I have good news. And so as you can see, our 5-year trend for our 4-year graduation rate continues to be very strong, continues to be extremely competitive with all of our neighboring towns. And it's something that, again, despite all those factors that we spoke about just a few minutes ago, this past year we're at 93.1, our highest of the last 5 years. And so even though we're talking about graduation rate, what I want to focus on tonight is really what we do with our 9th graders. And, some of you have heard me talk about this before, but I think it's really an important thing that we all are aware of. About 11 years ago, 2010, 2011, we drastically changed and transformed our 9th grade transition program. Because what we realize is if we don't transition students into the high school appropriately with as much support as we can give them as a 9th grader, it's those 9th graders that struggle, and that's the thing that we can control. All those other factors I spoke about, ELL students, people moving in from out of state, people moving in from other districts, those are out of our control. What's in our control is working with the 9th graders who are with us at the start of their high school career. And so what we realized, 10, 11 years ago is the traditional approaches to transition were not enough. We still do all of these things, but we have to do more. We have to support. So the open house, going down to the middle school and doing talks with different groups of students. Move Up Day is something that, we do every June. We bring the 8th graders up, spend an afternoon with us at the high school. Various summer programs and our traditional freshman orientation. We still do all those things. But really, it's this program here, something that we call RAFT. And it's, RAFT, the acronym we kind of made up, but really it's more symbolic. It's about picturing a raft and a student holding on to it just to keep their heads above water. And this program doesn't really target all 9th graders, although it's available to them. What we're targeting is that lower 15% of our students who, without additional support, would fail multiple classes and thus start their sophomore year 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 credits behind, and then affecting their graduation rate. So we build on 2 core principles: multiple opportunities for success and building relationships. And so every 9th grader has an opportunity, if they don't do well on assessment, if they've missed a deadline, if they need to retake a test or a quiz, they have an opportunity to do that. And have that new grade counted into their average. The relationships part, you heard Mr. Jenkins talk about, the bond that our teachers have with kids, and it goes to understanding what certain students are going through, why they may need an extended deadline, why they may need to retake a test or quiz. And so every year our goal is that 95% of our freshmen earn 30 credits or more. And that 30 credit barometer is what makes them a sophomore. High school graduation is not based on time spent in the building. It's based on credits earned. You need 120 credits earned. And so we have 7 classes, and so you can earn 35 credits. And so our goal is to get at least 95% of our 9th graders to that sophomore status. Some of the things that we do specifically for our 9th grade teachers, the freshman teams was a drastic paradigm shift for us. And it really took Dr. Pierce and all of our supervisors and administrators working together to figure out how we were going to do it. And the way we can do it, and I tell our freshman students and teachers every year, the most important student in this building is a freshman student. And I say that to them every year. I say it in front of the seniors, because we need to prioritize scheduling for the freshmen. We need to prioritize the freshman team and the most supportive environment for the freshmen. And so what happens on these teams is that the teams get common planning time. So twice a week, they're in a team meeting, talking about the students that they share, talking about what's happening with specific students who may be having an issue, and then creating action plans. The other 3 days a week, those teachers are provided that duty period to actually put the action plan in progress. Meet with CST, meet with school counselors, meet with parents. The beautiful thing about the team approach is if a parent needs to come in to see a teacher, they have access to all of their core teachers at one time. And so that's extremely helpful. We've designated team leaders. And so not only are we having freshman teams that are talking about kids, we're building leadership capacity among some of our best and brightest teachers. This retake and redo is something, if you study grading and you look at what goes into a grade, is one of our basic premises. And that's basically very self-explanatory. Students have the ability and the right to retake or redo assignments based on and part and parcel with remediation, with extra help. We want them to make the effort. We want them to recognize maybe why their grade wasn't as good as it could have been immediately. But we try to stay away from zeros. Zeros are a death knell for any student. And so one of the things that we emphasize is not using grades to teach responsibility. Right? So in the old days, when probably we were all in school, you missed an assignment, you didn't do well, teacher put a 0 in a book and said, you better learn your lesson. Those zeros are going to kill your grade. And in fact, they do. And what we learned is students don't necessarily learn lessons because of the grade they got in the middle of a marking period. They don't realize the real impact that's going to have 3, 4, 6 weeks from now. And all of a sudden those zeros have added up and it's too much and they give up. So our job is to make sure that we continue to build bridges and let them hold on to that raft towards passing grades. We redistributed our school counselor caseload. So we have 8 school counselors. 2 of them are freshman specialists. All they do is work with our freshman teams and work with our freshman students and work with our freshman parents. And that is a huge support to the teachers, and we're able to make sure that our communication with freshman parents is optimal. We have leadership class here at the high school. We have a junior class and a senior class. And for the last 6 or 7 years, we've been using those seniors, sending them away to specialized training in the summer, and we use them for all of our freshman transition. They're part of our orientation. They teach monthly lessons in the world history classes, so it's a win for the seniors. They get to go in and get used to being in front of people, get used to speaking, planning activities, but it's also building a connection. So those 2 or 3 leaders are in that same class month after month after month, and so they're building positive connections with kids. Our praise referral is something rather unique here. In fact, I just retweeted something I saw yesterday. Canada, the police in Canada routinely pull people over and give out tickets for doing the right thing. And so I emailed our staff and I said, Canada stole our praise referrals, because we've been doing this again for 11 years. You know, we're all familiar with writing up a student who did something wrong, a disciplinary referral. And then, you know, they go to the assistant principal and they get their discipline and it gets put into their system and it's part of their file. Well, we still do those things when necessary, but we try to emphasize writing praise referrals, and we follow the same process. Teachers can fill out the form, they document what the student did well, it goes to the assistant principal calls that student down, they have a one-on-one conference, they talk about what they did, they give them one of our little Bengal pins, and what's really cool is when you see kids collecting them on their book bag or in their locker. That's a neat thing. We do it for any reason, but improved attendance, giving an extra effort, and typically we tell teachers, not that we want to exclude our AP and our really top-notch honors kids, but we want to go after the kid that did something right, that maybe last week didn't. We want to reinforce that positive behavior. And then what we do is we take those praise referrals across grades 9 through 12, and we pick 1 per grade level each month, and those are our characters with character. And so we just took the picture just the other day. We put it in the newspaper. We send out letters home thanking the parents for, having students that exhibit such positive character here at Bloomfield High School. You're probably all familiar with our Wednesday activity schedule. And again, this is something that's grades 9 through 12, but with our 9th graders, what we're able to do is we're able to, early on in the year, we just did it last week, identify students who are already at risk of having academic difficulties, meeting with them, meeting with the team, getting the parents involved, and then we have mandatory Wednesday activity period so that we're able to track where they're going, the teachers are able to direct where they're going, so that we don't have to wait until the end of the first marking period to see poor grades, to decide we have to do something differently. We can do it, 3-4 weeks into the school year. And as you know, the Wednesday activity period is voluntary for everybody else. And it's 50 minutes each Wednesday where students can get academic support, go to activity hours, go to clubs that are having meetings. And once we're established, over the last 10 years, we average about 900 to 1,100 students who voluntarily stay in this building when they could leave to do these activities, to go see teachers, to retake tests, to meet in a club or activity. And we do the clubs and activities because what we found is some students aren't able to do those meetings after school on a traditional day because they have sibling responsibilities, they're on a sports team. And the good news is during this activity period, and the best analogy that we've come up with is, professor office hours when you're in college. Your professor is going to be in that room for 50 minutes every single Wednesday, and so it's up to you to make an academically mature decision to go and take advantage of that. And again, our results prior to RAFT, prior to 2011, we averaged 135 ninth graders who failed one course and 86 who failed multiple courses. And what's interesting about that number, when I went back beyond the 10 years, that number was so consistent every year. It was about 15% failure every year as far as we could go back. Since 2011, as soon as we put these changes into place, you can see that we average about half of that. About 70 students fail one course and about 35 fail multiple. And so that gives us, again, our goal of 95%, 92% we're shooting, and it helps us ultimately with that 93% graduation rate. And this is just, we survey our freshmen every year, beginning, middle, and end of the school year, asking them to self-evaluate how they, the effort they put in, how would you rate your year, how often did you use the RAFT program, and you can see from this, the orange and the green in that bottom left, you know, over 65% of the students used RAFT at least some of the time. And that's really, I think, a key to helping us move forward with our ninth grade transition. So I'm happy to answer any questions about graduation rate, about ninth grade RAFT, any of our academic programs.
Can you guys switch back so I can see too?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? I'm going to go start with Jess.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Jennings, for your presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Linas.
Ms. Green.
No questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you very much for presenting the information. I like the approach of us saying maybe we're not doing the right thing and not always blaming the students. My glasses are fogging up, so I can't see a thing. And then I can't read when I... But anyway, you know, where we say maybe we need to adjust rather than expecting the students always to come and adjust to what we're expecting. I like that. And I think it's the proper approach. Do you see perhaps that second chance idea siphoning through the upper grades, other grades? Because I think we're here to ensure children succeed, and sometimes it takes a second time or a third time in order to let them really find their way and get learn what they needed to learn.
Yes, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. The ninth grade philosophies that we discussed are mandatory. So all of our ninth grade teachers know this is not an option. If a student comes to you and wants to retake or redo, it's their right to do that. Grades 10 through 12, we're pushing that up. And so while it's not mandatory, we've been doing this for now 10 years. And so every staff meeting all the time, the teachers hear me say things about multiple opportunities for success. And the idea that what you just said is just because you don't get something on the first time doesn't mean you can't do it better. You know, failure isn't final. All the cliches, you know, we don't care what you know. You know, today, if you know more tomorrow, that's important. And so we want to give you an opportunity to do that. So yes, we do encourage all of our classes to partake in that philosophy.
One last thing, really quick. Students that transfer in, are you doing something, or is there something that can be done similar to the RAFT program for new students coming in their second year, third year, so that they also can have that opportunity to acclimate to the school?
Yeah, so we offer credit recovery classes when applicable. So if a student came in and had failed specific classes where they we're able to give them semester classes within the school year so that they have an opportunity to make up credits. And I will say, one of the things I'm very excited about for the future, and again, kudos to this board for moving forward with the Twilight program. I think the Twilight program has a great potential to help specific students, not every student, but specific students who find themselves 10 credits shy, 15 credits shy, and we can plan ahead and we could really help maybe those students make up some academic ground and then still graduate on time 4 years later.
Thanks. The newly announced graduation test for 11th graders, how do you see that fitting into the picture? As a positive or a negative? Or
in a sense, I think it's somewhat of a positive because it's hearkening back to the days of HESPA. And so what I like is it's not a end of course test, it's an 11th grade test. So students will sit for it in spring of 11th grade, and then students who are not successful get to sit for it again in fall of 12th grade. And that gives us that summer in between to work with those students. And then students who are still not successful, they still have access to the multiple pathways. So they can use a PSAT score or an SAT score or an ASVAB score. So, and we still have the portfolio. So I think if we have to provide those graduation requirements, this is the best way to do it.
Mr. Berger?
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. I've been on the board since off and on since 2010. I think this is the third time I've got to hear the raft presentation, and
I freshened it up a little.
It's wonderful. One of the things I like to point out is that when you find a program and you stick to it,
Agreed.
and you see the results over time. And I'd like to ask a slightly tangential question about the huge restorative justice step that you've undertaken this year in your leadership. Does the indiscipline, is there any room, how does that affect in the RAF program discipline?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely tie hand in hand, because what we often see is our most academically needy students are often socially needy as well, and oftentimes get themselves into a position where a traditional discipline may be in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension. Even if it's just after-school detention, what we find many times is they don't go to that, despite our best efforts to corral them. And then what happens is we have to continue to ratchet up our end, and so then it's in-school suspension, and then they come late, they don't come to school, and so it starts piling on itself. And so while we're not 100% restorative justice in a formal sense, what we've done since COVID is try to get the message out that what we're doing is we're parlaying our raft principles of second chances into that disciplinary realm. And so what we're doing even this year is, trying to limit the in-school suspension and trying to limit out-of-school suspension and have more conversations. And part of my challenge is helping the teachers and our educational staff realize that that's more work on the administrative end. It's easy to take 3 kids, put them in ISS, close the door, and again, tell them to learn their lesson. Well, we've realized that doesn't always happen. It's harder to spend an hour with those kids, getting mom on the phone, getting the school counselor involved, bringing in a teacher who knows that student, and having conversations, having that student recognize what they did. Now, it's not a one-hit wonder. There's no magic. Kids don't go, oh, I was wrong, you were right, I apologize, and they go on their merry way. But it's small conversations over a long period of time, something our superintendent, says all the time. And it's true, because as the kids know that they can trust us and we're not going to hit them over the head with a hammer, we want them to do well. We want to give them the mechanisms to be successful here at Bloomfield High School, particularly those students that move in. They're not familiar with us. They weren't at our middle school, and they're used to certain, being approached a certain way by adults. And so we want to continue to take those small steps towards that.
Thank you, Principal Jennings. Thank you, President Fishman.
Thank you, Mr. Berger.
Hello, I'm up here. I have a quick question, just to add some reference to the impact of graduation rates with children that have IEPs. In reference to that, some of our students may or may not be in the best program. If they have special education services, they we may be sitting in a general education or inclusion program. How is this program accessible to those students that may or may not have IEPs,
The RAF program itself?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, all of our 9th grade students, those with IEPs and without, are entitled to the principles of the RAF program. And so the students who are in the inclusion classes with inclusion teachers, along with the content certified people, they all know, obviously, they are intimately aware with a student's IEP. And in fact, those students have the extra resource of a case manager to advocate for them, to make sure that they have those opportunities. And sometimes it is more difficult because they may not have had the initial learning platform, or they were behind. And so it's a matter of individualizing that remediation, making sure that not everybody in the room is getting the same assessment, making sure that we're looking at what one student needs and letting that student demonstrate their level of proficiency.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Casey stole my thunder. I just want to say, first off, I want to say thank you. Great presentation. I did want to ask if you see any correlation between success for students with IEPs and 504s and the way that the RAF program has laid out in your kind of historical view. I don't know if you had that data to be able to look at the correlation between students who had IEPs and 504s 10 years ago and see if there is any impact on those percentages. But again, I think the program's amazing, so I just hope it's all successful in all the right ways. So
I appreciate that. And so that 95% goal is certainly inclusive of our, IEP students. And it's really an IEP principle that we've put into regular education about, measuring what a student knows today and measuring their growth compared to what they knew before.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. I think, like Mr. Berger, to echo, this is a great presentation. It's possibly the third time that I've seen it as well.
I got to freshen it up.
It's definitely freshened up. I'm just curious about new areas of innovation and direction. What do you have planned, and what do you need the board's support on in terms of being able to just take it further than you have already?
I mean, one of the areas that we're focusing on at Bloomfield High School is that restorative justice platform, and being culturally aware and culturally sensitive. And so that is something that as district administrators, we're going through that program now. It's something that we're working with our local team here in the high school, and we were really making some progress before we left. And so we just had a meeting again last week. We're getting our equity and excellence team up and running. We're getting our diversity team up and running. And I think being able to, what I've asked that team to focus on is, taking the temperature, surveying the students. Before we left, we surveyed the teachers, and the students were the next step. And so that's something that hopefully, in this early half of the school year, that's what we're going to be able to do, and put that council together to try to talk about, what's happening in this building on a social level. Thank you. You're welcome.
I'm not going to blow up your spot and say that we've seen it 3 times.
Listen, I have one philosophy of mine is there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And then, we talk about that often, because if it's successful.
I like that the numbers continue to rise. Congratulations to you and your staff for doing that. The only thing that I would ask you to look into, that I sat through at PD last week, and they changed the title from restorative justice to restorative practices, because they were saying restorative justice is for the courts and restorative practices would be for the schools. So that would be my only suggestion as we move forward, is to just change that title, which caught us in my district. We have the same terminology.
Right.
And when that person said it, we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Something to think of. But
Absolutely.
thank you again. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Again, we'd like to thank Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Jennings for coming and giving us those 2 wonderful presentations. As we follow along on our agenda, for those of you at home and Facebook land and WBMA, we are moving on to number 4. It's the first hearing of the public. Just for a reminder, there'll be a maximum of 45 minutes for public comment. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. And as we've done in the past, we're going to open it up agenda and non-agenda items at this time. Yes. Ms. Guo, you want to go with your email first?
Okay, I have one email, and it's from Shelley Hutchinson. Good evening. I would like to circle back to the conversation around testing in school for unvaccinated faculty and staff. can you tell us what day testing will occur? Will it be the PCR method or inclusive of rapid and home testing? Who will staff report their results to? In other words, who is holding them accountable for turning in their results in a timely fashion? Thank you.
Okay, the school district is prepared to be in compliance with the governor's October 18th deadline for vaccination and testing. Therefore, testing for staff will commence this coming Monday. We have put into place in-district protocols for reporting at each building site for each collective bargaining group that represents all of our employees. So a system is in place. We will be checking each and every staff member that needs to report into the system with a follow-up to make sure that all our teachers and staff and students are safe. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, before we close this, do we want to just speak about, because that email also said, are we doing PCR, rapid, and at-home tests? And I believe, do you want to get that information out real quick?
Yeah, at this point, we will be accepting PCR testing. We will be accepting rapid testing with a certification that will be uploaded into our system and that will be reviewed by the individuals that are in place to oversee this for all of the employees necessary that have to get the documentation to us. With that said, I think we have, since the beginning of the school year, understand the commitment to make sure that our school district is safe, our employees and our children. We have put protocols into place since the beginning of the school year. We continue to do so. We understand the community's concern for testing of staff, and that is now being put into place for this coming Monday. We'll continue to move forward. We'll continue to look at mandates that come out of the governor's office. We'll continue to work closely with our local health officials, and that's been extremely successful. The other part of the success that we're having is from parents and students cooperating with the protocols that we have in place within the school district, and that's something that we're very proud of and that we've seen in place since the pandemic began 19 months ago. Your cooperation at home with protocols themselves do nothing. Protocols with cooperation of all the individuals that make up the community become effective. And we've seen that. We've seen Mr. Jenkins talk about that with the athletic program here this evening. We have seen it during the course of the 19 months. This board has been committed to making sure that all children are safe moving forward. It's not a perfect practice, but we're working to get there. And working to get there as quickly and as carefully and as safely as we possibly can. And that's with the cooperation of the local health department. Mike Fitzpatrick has been tremendous. He's come on board meetings, he's talked to the public, he's talked to us as educators, he's walked us through a lot of these very complex, ever-changing protocols that have been put into place. And as a result, we've had a lot of success, and we look forward to having continued success for the remainder of the school year.
If I could just add to that too, on our website, on the top right to the left of quick links is our COVID-19 tab, and any correspondence we've had internally or externally will be available on that tab, and the same will go with any sort of testing information that'll be put up at week's end, heading into Monday's mandate. Thank you.
Seeing nothing else, we're going to close the first hearing of the public and move on to reports. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, the suspension report is in your packet, and we are on to 5B. Mr. G, the floor is yours.
First thing I'd like to start off with is thanking Mr. Jennings and Mr. Jenkins for their presentations tonight, because their presentations were student-centered, and that's what the Bloomfield School District is all about. And I've just talked about cooperation. Cooperation not only from parents, from employees, from students, whether they're student athletes, whether there are academic students, wherever they're participating, they are cooperating. And quite honestly, folks, that is not happening in all communities. In the community of Bloomfield, thank God, there's a very, very low COVID infection rate. And I believe that's reflective of the community at large and also the school district. I think our ability to work with the mayor and town council, to work with the local health department, to work within the school community has all contributed to the success that we're having now. We'd like to see this completely gone. We're working towards that effort as we follow what's coming out of the governor's office. What's coming out of Essex County has done a tremendous job in terms of providing testing sites and also vaccine sites for people to access. So the cooperation that we're seeing in our area of the state, I think has been really a tribute to us all. This Board of Education, from the beginning of this, 19 months ago, said, whatever you need, Sal, however we can help, Sal, we want to be there. And they have been there, not only in terms of their work as a Board of Education, but talking to you folks in the community to settle your anxiety that we know you have. These are your children. The most precious gift that we have is our children, our grandchildren. And we want to be able to keep them all safe. And we want to be able to make sure that the conversation is always focused around our children. They are the straw that stirs the drink. So with that, I'd like to thank the parents. I'd like to thank all of our employees in the school district. I'd like to thank this Board of Education, our local health department, our mayor and town council, and all of those that work with us, the fire department, the police department, emergency services, all that contribute to making this school district very, very successful. And with that said, that really is my report. I will entertain any questions that you may have.
It's a quiet group today. Seeing none, we'll move on. My report is very brief. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to my fellow board members for sitting through meetings and helping the business office make the repairs to Foley Field in time for homecoming. I'd like to congratulate our cheerleading squad for the Cheer for the Cure, our band. My music people are going to be very mad. Sorry, Dan. But the band also just won an award. I forget what the name of it is. And first in class. And also the football team for a wonderful homecoming win. Also to remind you that Foley Field is going to be continually used now that we have it back up and running. This Friday we have a football game. I believe Mike Skirman and the recreation department have fireworks coming up also this weekend. So check that out. Also a big thank you to our counselors. Top to bottom. I don't think that, I know Mr. Jennings had mentioned them, but K to 12, it's probably the hardest thing that had to happen during COVID is with counselors being able to do their job remotely. It's kind of difficult in difficult settings. So I just wanted to thank them for everything they did during COVID and continue to do. Also with Start with Sandy Hook, Start with Hello. Respect Week going across the district. You could check out your school's websites for all the cool things they did. So just thank you to all our counselors, top and bottom. They've done a great job. So with that being said, I'm going to keep this moving. And I'm going to go on to number 6, the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Discussion. Ms. Guo, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ms. Dudley,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Morse,
Yes.
Ms. Salinas,
Yes.
Vice President Walker,
Yes.
President Fishman.
Yes. We are on number 7, curriculum instruction package. Mr. Berger, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Fishman. It is a great day to be a Bengal. And before I move on with our quick committee meeting minutes, I would just like to say that safety is in the forefront of, colleagues, what we're doing right now, but we really can't squeeze it so tight that it's the only thing we're working on. And I wanted to point out, and I wanted to thank all you guys for the vigorous efforts that we've all made with our votes and with our emails and phone calls on the curriculum and instruction. Thank you guys very much. I also have a couple questions for Joe in the middle of this agenda. Okay, so the first item was the LEA guidance for Chapter 27 emergency virtual or remote instruction programs for the 21-22 school year. Joe, could you please briefly describe that?
Sure. The Department of Education is requiring that all school districts, or LEAs as we know them, submit an emergency virtual learning plan for October 29th. So what I described to the committee quickly is that we did build upon our virtual plan in anticipation of submitting this. We are following, as we did in the past, a full day schedule should indeed there be an emergency and we have to go virtual, which hopefully we do not. So at the elementary, it'll be a full day of instruction, 8:30 to 3:20. At the middle school, it'll be a full day of instruction, 8:35 to 3:25. At the high school, it would be a full day of instruction, 7:45 to 2:40. And again, to clarify, these are full days of virtual learning. Unlike some other districts that were doing different types of machinations, we are committed to a full day if that be the case. And it'll be delivered through our Google platform.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. The second item we discussed was going over the presentations that Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Jennings gave. We have an upcoming meeting with Dr. Penelope Lattimore and Dr. Adele Macula coming to our next curriculum and instruction meeting. Mr. Flores, could you please give us an update on the Start Strong assessment?
Sure. The Start Strong assessment was an option from the Department of Education for students in grades 4 through 12 to partake in an assessment that gauges the learning that was supposed to take place last year. The deadline to complete is October 22nd. We're right now wrapping up some testing with, I believe, next week being the makeup week for anyone that may have missed it. It is one class period per content session. The results are immediate. The administration is currently viewing them as we get them. And hopefully, as the results pour in, we learn more about our virtual learning plan that we offered and eventually our hybrid plan. And again, meeting our students where they're at for this current school year.
Mr. Flores, do the results anecdotally confirm that our virtual learning program has worked better than we thought?
As we noted many times, while we were virtual and eventually hybrid and now in person, we were really proud of the program that we delivered to our students. Obviously, we tweaked it as we went. We learned. It was the first time we were doing it. So we tweaked it as we went along and improved it, in my opinion. I think we were one of the few districts, especially initially, to offer a full day of instruction virtually. Although that was tedious on some groups, we felt that was the best platform we could deliver to our students. And in brief conversations with administration now, as they're viewing the results as they're coming in, we are pleasantly surprised and pleased with how our learning took place last year based on the results.
Thank you very much. We moved on and discussed the Teachers Academy, which is very popular, and learned that there's a couple offerings as a fall and a spring offering. We had our restorative justice moment when the curriculum guides, last 4 guides came in for review. Mr. Flores, could you please discuss the Hispanic Heritage Celebration we're having this year?
So the Spanish teachers at the middle school are once again working on Hispanic Heritage Month night at Bloomfield Middle School. That seems to be the hub of where we celebrate this. Mr. Orlovsky and the BMS administration are working with students and staff and will prepare a video, and it will be posted on October 15th so the entire community at large can view it. And I know a lot of hard work is going into that.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. We reviewed a draft COVID protocol and compliance update. We discussed the updated website, the COVID-19 links. We also had some EpiPens and professional development conferences to put through. Mr. Flores informed the committee that the NJQSAC DPRs are being submitted. Here we go again. And the committee all had a joint agreement that the focus on the fine arts moving forward into next year will be a concerted effort to maintain the district's award-winning programs, initiatives, and the proper balance. Thank you, President Fishman. May I make a motion for 7A through 7F, please?
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Berger. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Before I open the floor to discussion, I just want to make sure that we are all clear that people that tuned in and heard remote learning, distance learning, that was submitted to the state was for an emergent situation only. Nothing has changed in our status. We are open 24/7 like we are now. That is for an emergent situation. Going forward, they have what we need to put in should we need to go moving backwards. But right now, nothing has changed.
We anticipated that was going to happen because this is a mandate that has to be approved by the Board of Ed in order to be submitted to the Department of Ed. But as President Fishman said, we're not moving towards a virtual platform. This is simply a compliance document that gets approved by the board and submitted to the state in case of an apparent emergency.
Yes, so that does not include if we have someone on quarantine, that's something different. This is a plan that had to be, if we 100% had to go back to virtual, where we were 18 months ago. Mr. Berger, thank you for keeping that very long meeting into a very concise report. Much appreciated, sir. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to go make Mr. Heller and then for you.
Actually, I'm just going to quip that with the curriculum guides that we have on there this evening. I look forward to the forthcoming International Cuisine and America's Cuisine recipe booklet coming out from committee.
It's the set of curricula that I read, and I salivate as I read. I make sure I'm not hungry when I review it.
Ms. Green.
Thank you. Will there be any other celebration regarding the Hispanic Heritage Celebration, not just at the middle school, but also at the elementary or high school?
To my knowledge, each school will be doing something, and I could gather a list and a report and report it out through the committee, if that helps.
Yeah, Mr. Fuller, just for my own edification, I'm just curious, and I meant to ask at our meeting, but with the Start Strong assessment, do teachers get to see the questions and then how the how the students answered the questions?
Yes, the unique thing about the results being immediate is that it breaks it down by question and content, and therefore it's not just looking at the results to look at percentages. We're looking at what type of questions may students have missed and how can we improve upon that. So they do have access to that. Our administrators obviously have access and then are using it throughout their PLCs to discuss the results.
Seeing no other questions, can I have a roll call, please, Ms. Guo?
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ms. Dudley,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Morse,
Yes.
Ms. Salinas,
Yes.
Vice President Walker,
Yes.
President Fishman.
Yes. We are on to number 8, the finance and facility package. Mrs. Salinas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Fishman. Good evening, everyone. Our Finance and Facilities Committee met Wednesday, October 6th. Present was myself, Ms. Dudley, Vice President Walker, and Ms. Guo. Ms. Guo provided updates on the following projects: the roof replacements at Forest Glen and Franklin. The installation of metal coping at Franklin is completed, and Forest Glen will be completed this week. The Bloomfield High School security camera upgrades. The work started on 9/22. The committee discussed the use of cameras as disciplinary tools and will seek clarification from the superintendent. Brookdale boiler and Oakview roof. Ms. Guo will circulate bid results to the committee members after the bid opening on Thursday. BMS HVAC window replacement project. PSA is proceeding with the design and construction documents. The administration requested PSA to expand the project scope to include HVACs in auditorium, cafeteria, gym, and science wing chiller. Ms. Guo discussed with the committee the following resolutions that will be on tonight's agenda: the approval of the 22-23 budget calendar. The budget request will be distributed to administrators at the end of October. The committee discussed the importance of updating the top 30 priority projects for long-term planning, and also revisit the cost estimates to reflect market changes. Submission of CARES amendments to DOE for approval to reflect spending modifications, and approval of parental transportation contract. Ms. Guo also informed the committee members of the updated COVID web link with additional information. She also shared with the committee that she's waiting for guidance from the assigned vendor for the DOH COVID in-school program. We adjourned at 3:38. I would like a motion to move 8A through 8N.
So
Thank you,
moved.
President Fishman.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Berger. Discussion on finance and facility.
I just have one inquiry. Is the board going to, on its own, have a conversation with regard to expectations on the tax levy increment for the upcoming school year? Or is it just assumed that we're going to go to cap? I know that we left that as a topic that I thought we would talk about and provide as guidance to the administration for this upcoming budget cycle.
It's something that we can discuss going back through committee. I don't think it's appropriate to be discussed right now, but we can take it back through committee. You want to say something? Ms. Guo, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Ms. Dudley,
Yes?
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Morse,
Yes.
Ms. Salinas,
Yes.
Vice President Walker,
Yes.
President Fishman.
Yes, we are on to number 9, personnel and management. Mr. Heller, the floor is yours.
Mr. Heller, can I just jump in for 1 second? In the personnel and management document tonight, there's a retirement, and all retirements are special to me. I've known a lot of people in this district for a very long time. On the list tonight is my confidential secretary, Mary Georgiewicz. Mary and I go way back. Mary was my home and school president at Berkeley School for many years. All 3 of her children went through the school. When I was principal there, Mary and I have a long-standing relationship, and just when she thought she was rid of me, I reappeared at the administration building, and we were again hooked up to work together. And it's been a wonderful journey with Mary, her dedication as a parent and a community member to Bloomfield, her dedication and passion to serving as my confidential secretary. She will be sorely missed by me and members of the administration building and the district at large. And I wish Mary and her family a happy and successful retirement, and we'll talk before December, but God bless you, Mary, and your family. Thank you, Mr. Heller.
Superintendent Gonzalez definitely said it better than I would have. This agenda, like all personnel and management portions of the agenda, we act on standard personnel matters, including resignations, retirements, appointments, adjustments, transfers. In this case, we are accepting reluctantly Ms. Georgiewicz's retirement. She is someone that just is such a pleasant person. Whenever you come into central office, she's very quick to acknowledge your presence, to ask how you're doing, and to just bring good cheer. And I will definitely miss that for the times that I come to central office. In addition to those resignations, retirements, appointments, adjustments, and transfers, we are rescinding some earlier personnel actions here. We're making some adjustments to leave of absence. We recognize degree changes. That's a really important portion, I think, of what we do. It's wonderful to see the degree advancement and attainment that the teaching staff have in district. We're approving a list of substitutes. We're approving extra compensation, including extra compensation for federally funded programs. And as Mr. Berger noted, a pretty strong participation in the Bloomfield Teacher Academy this year. It's taking us all the way to December 15th. The BTA is our in-district staff mentoring and teaching other in-district staff, and I think that's a really great bang for the buck. It's also quite impressive to see, with everybody returning to an on-prem setting, how many people have actually participated. We are approving some student teaching field experiences, some staff for home instruction, and actually some volunteers as well. And as Mr. Flores and Mr. Berger noted, we are going to approve the QSAC, the Quality Single Accountability Continuum District Performance Review for 2021-2022 to be sent to the Executive Superintendent's Office. In terms of our work in committee, we met on Thursday the 7th. Mr. Dettoli was there for the administration. Board Member Green and I were there. We missed you, President Fishman. We reviewed personnel notes that appear on tonight's agenda. Mr. Dettoli answered all of our questions. And of course, we remarked how we're going to miss Mary Georgiewicz when she retires. We talked about the governance guidance regarding school opening and vaccine compliance. We talked about the district's COVID compliance and the dashboard and website updates, the DPR submission, and then we had some other conversations regarding non-agenda items that are always valuable and important. And with that, I would like to move agenda items 9A through 9R.
Thank you, Mr. Heller. Who was that? Mr. Anderson, thank you. Any discussion? I'm going to echo what everybody else said because I know that Mary Georgiewicz is a very large portion of our admin team that is behind the scenes. So thank you for all her early morning phone calls for me and returning all my emails with all the questions that I bombard her with on a regular basis and always doing it so professionally. So thank you. Her institutional knowledge alone is something that's going to be hard to replace, let alone the wonderful human being that she is. So thank you for your service. Enjoy your retirement, and we will miss you. If I see no other comments, Ms. Guo, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ms. Dudley,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Morse,
Yes.
Ms. Salinas,
Yes.
Vice President Walker,
Yes.
President Fishman.
Yes. We have no policies and regulations, so we are going on to number 11 on your agenda, the second hearing of the public. Once again, this is agenda and non-agenda items. Maximum of 45 minutes for each speaker. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. And if you're calling in, you're going to need to state your name and address for the record. The number is 973-381-7200. Ms. Guo.
I don't have any email.
You don't have any emails? Wow. No phone calls? All right, we'll close the second hearing of the public. I guess we're doing a great job of relaying information tonight. And move on to business. Delegate ad hoc committee reports first.
Thank you, President Fishman. I just wanted to congratulate this Board of Education for fixing Foley Field in such an expeditious manner. I was able to go to the homecoming game. There had to be 800 students there with all these parents, and everyone was having such a wonderful time, and we won. Also, Miss Salinas was there, and also got to go to the Cheer for the Cure, which was fantastic. Cheering is a sport. That's like the lesson you learn at School Board Academy, number 1.
Did you have a report from anything else, or you just want to say congratulations? Oh, was that a comment? Thank you, Mr. Berger. Thank you for going to all those different events and being great representation to the board. Much appreciated. And Mrs. Salinas, thank you for going to cheer for the cure as well. You have something else? Oh, go ahead. You want to give a report? Go ahead. Sorry, we thought we were just giving out thank yous.
Thank you, President Fishman. I just wanted to say that myself, Mr. Berger, Mr. Heller, and Mr. Morris, we attended the Essex County School Board meeting on September 22nd. It was in Maplewood at the Woodland. I just wanted to say that we had a great panel discussion regarding the reopening of schools, which each district was able to join in and to have discussion about. I just wanted to say that our next Essex County meeting is November 10th. That's going to be at Glen Ridge Country Club, and that topic will be about equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I please urge my colleagues to please attend this meeting as well. Thank you, President Fishman. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Salinas. Anybody else?
Behind you.
Oh, Michael, I'm sorry. You're behind me.
No worries. I want to echo Jessica's comments. It was a fantastic Essex County meeting. I think the lessons learned as shared by Mila Jaycee's Chief of Staff and by the Superintendent of the Maplewood South Orange schools were really fantastic. I think it was also very nice to hear their uplifting comments, just like Mr. G's report tonight, with regard to the commitment of school district elected board members. I think we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the New Jersey School Boards Association Executive Director, Dr. Larry Feinsod, and the op-ed that he recently wrote with regard to the public decorum with school boards and recognizing that we are volunteers. I want to say that in our community, we have a very respectful community that has treated us with dignity in ways that are non-threatening. And that, I think, really is the reason that many of us have served, that we're continuing to serve over a period of more than one term. It was a fantastic meeting. Separately, the Bloomfield Recycling Committee, the Township Recycling Committee, where I'm the liaison, will be meeting later this month. And Township Clerk and Recycling Coordinator Luis Palagano has taken notice of, Mr. Manning sent an email with regard to garbage and recycling pickup in our schools and having some trouble reaching our township contracted carrier, Roselli. I believe those matters are being addressed, but if there's anything that the administration needs me to take back to the meeting on your behalf, I'd be more than happy to do so.
Thank you, President Fishman. I have one shameless plug for if any of you are interested. On October 20th, the Morris County School Board Association is having their monthly meeting, and I will be a panelist at that meeting to talk a little bit about, ties into what Mr. Heller was talking about. They're doing a panel on kind of best practices in terms of public meetings. And I'm there to speak both as a board member and then also as a professional who presents in front of a lot of boards. So should be an interesting conversation. We'll have, I think, a total of 5 panelists for that.
So you're inviting us to come heckle you?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
As long as you bring eggs and tomatoes, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, we're showing good respect on how to have a meeting with eggs and tomatoes. Be a good sport. We'll be a good sport. Just a side note before we go to everybody's favorite part of the meeting, please check your school websites, the district calendar, social media. Our home and schools from K to 12, pre-K to 12, are doing some awesome events coming up. Please take advantage of those. We have a lot of hardworking moms and dads that are setting those up. I know each of us 9 of us sit at home and school meetings once a month and hear all these great things. So please, if you're unaware, reach out to your building principal, reach out to the home and school president of your building. But there are a lot of great things coming up in each and every building. Please take advantage of that. It's something that your kids will remember. And with that being said, it's time for everybody's favorite time of the meeting. It is called adjournment. May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mr. Berger. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Everybody, I need an all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Have a great night. Thanks for stopping by, guys.